I was playing this song all night and it's stuck in my head.
Y'all can help me out here.
Good evening. Terri, your microphone.
Yeah, her mic's off.
No, it's still on. Still off. You're grand. You're good. Nick, I'll say good evening. No, it's still off. Terri, still off. Okay, we
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
There we go.
We can hear you now. We can hear you now.
All right, I don't know what is going on. Stevie was saying she couldn't hear anything either. I don't know what happened. So anyway, it's always problems with us. So anyway, we have Jenny sitting in with us tonight, and my daughter may or may not be back. And we have Mr. Nick Mulae. Am I saying your last name right, Nick?
That's correct, yes.
Okay, I wanted to make sure with that. So, Nick, first tell us who you are and what you do, and then we're going to dive into Amityville.
Sure thing. So obviously, as a lot of people know, my name is Nick Mulae. I've been a paranormal investigator for now 17 years, since I was 12 years old. And like a lot of investigators have, I've, investigated a lot of different, locations throughout the years. And, I think what I always enjoy a lot, whenever I do my, whenever I get myself involved in the field, is always doing a lot of research on the plate, on these locations, as well as basically doing my homework, in other words. And not only just the paranormal field, but I also study a lot also with ufology and cryptozoology. So I'm kind of all over the place.
Cool. And you also do these scary stories.
That's correct. That's which is something very recent I've done about now over a year ago. I also do audiobook stories based on the scary, well, not the books themselves, tribute books based on the scary stories to tell in the dark books. And I got a new book series. Excuse me, I got a new audio series coming out, and that's still under development, but it's going to be coming out within the next few days.
Right. You're a busy guy.
Yeah, I'm all over the place.
Is that the one, Nick? Can I ask you very quickly, Nick? Is that the one that I am doing as well? Because I know it needs to throw mine in.
It's actually a different series I'm working on. I'm releasing that series first before I release the secondary series.
Because I was going through the wrong story. When I mailed you, I was going through the wrong story until you told me the other story that I had to say. And I was like, oh my gosh, I would have sent you the same story as someone else was doing. But I'm back on my story now, the one I am doing. So
Awesome.
anyway, it's been done. It's been done.
Cool. So you two have already got works going on together.
That's correct. I mean, what I've been doing. So the other series that I'm working on right now, it's called Nightmare Soup, and I got full permission from the authors to, make an audiobook series out of this. And I decided when I was working on this next series that because the previous books, it was usually just me always narrating, recording. I thought, how cool would it be if I actually brought in, different, paranormal hosts from different podcasts to narrate a story from that book, because that way it's like you're able to somewhat expand, those stories, for other people to listen to. So this is the first time where it's not just going to be me recording; it's going to be others, including Jenny.
I'm in it.
Yeah,
Some point.
Very cool.
Yeah,
and it was great. Thank you for asking me to be onto it. Thank you.
I'm glad you're on with us. I mean, so far we've gotten about 12 stories turned in.
Mine is keep coming.
Oh,
I know I keep saying it's coming, but it's coming. It's coming.
Yeah.
It is coming. It is coming.
Hey, Rose.
Good to see you, Rosie.
Oh, hey, Rosie.
So, Nick, I've seen Bill series. This was like the first book I picked up, that wasn't a comic book or, see Dick and Jen run and all. This was the first adult book that I read. I think I was 11 or 12 and, not appropriate at all. But I obviously have always had some kind of fascination with paranormal, mass murderers. Because Charles Manson was a huge trial, when I was a kid. That was like nightly news every night. So, yeah, I'm aging myself here. But yeah, that was my time. These were the things that were on the news and big stories at the time. So you have got so much amazing information. Like, of course, the book is only about the really,
which I do have a copy of. Speaking of which,
yay!
Right. And I know what the DeFray, what was that guy's name? The first family.
Robert DeFeo Jr.
DeFeo. I actually just looked up today that he died last year. So good riddance. That's another one, off the face of the earth. So I guess before we get into the DeFeos, were they the original owners?
They were. I wouldn't necessarily say that they were the actual first original owners, because originally the house was built back in 1924. And during the early years when I was going through my research of the Amityville House before the Lutzes and the DeFeos moved in, I was trying to see if I could find any other, any particular type of information about anybody else who lived there. And I did find a couple did live in that house shortly after it was built in the 20s. There wasn't very much information I was really able to find about them. I mean, I tried my hardest to look for them, but as far as I'm concerned, they were the original owners of this house. But, just like as a lot of people have said today, they didn't report anything, rather unusual in the house. It's actually kind of, I'm actually surprised that they never said, because, when the whole murders took place in the 70s, that was only probably about at least almost 50 years after when it was originally built, if I'm correct on that. So even by then, one of them would have been alive back then and should have said something. But they were, I don't know about any other owners, but I know they were there before the DeFeos were.
Wow.
Right. So I guess we don't know if the DeFeos had any any weird paranormal anything until obviously the son flipped out and killed all of them.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, they never said anything, from neighbors and people who knew them. They they never reported anything unusual, although the family themselves, they had a very it was a very what's the, damn it, I'm trying to think of the word. It was basically a very rough atmosphere with that family. I mean, if you saw them, like, if they were at, like at church, or if you knew the kids in school, they looked like just about anybody, like anyone else. But
Right.
unfortunately, they were a dysfunctional family. That's the word I was looking for.
Do you reckon that if there was no report of the house before this family moved in, do you reckon that they had brought an entity, or where they had an attachment to them that followed them to this house? Or was there something like, as if I can say it, mental issues?
There was definitely mental issues. I can tell you that. I'm not sure if something actually attached to them, but the fact that there was, again, there was a lot of abuse that went on, especially from the father, who was Ronald DeFeo Sr. I mean,
Mhm.
he was, from what I've heard, he was not a good father to it, not only, to the younger kids, but even to Ronald DeFeo Jr., even when he was already an adult. He drank, he got himself involved in a few arrests. So the fact that there was abuse that went on, I think we're all familiar with, when something like that
Right.
occurs, it could
Mhm.
actually act as a lightning rod to
Exactly.
certain
Yeah.
paranormal activity.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
And can I ask one more question? Like, was there any history from the past locations where they lived, say the past homes, if any of the street neighbors had any complaints about the family? That, what I'm saying, if they had a dysfunctional family, if I can say that,
Yeah.
that they came to this home, was a report of the previous house where they lived that was not brought to attention?
It may have been. I mean, it could be very well likely. See, when I was younger, and when I first studied, the Amityville case, I originally thought that they too were suffering through paranormal phenomena. I mean, if you met me back when I was, only 12, which was actually right around the same time that the remake came out, which very quickly I knew a lot of the stuff that occurred in the remake really didn't actually happen. It
Okay. Yeah.
was not long after when the remake came out, I learned that it was actually a remake of an original film. So I saw the original one along with the sequels first, and I originally believed them all. But then, oh, Sam Thomas. No, Ronald DeFeo Jr., he actually passed away last year March of last year. He was 69 years old.
Yeah.
69. Okay.
No, 69.
Yeah.
Andrew.
Yeah, we just kind of had something sort of like that last night. We are sure this guy is dead. He died last year. Stevie is having technical issues back there, so that's where she went. I think she's still in the background running comments, but she's having trouble. Here she is.
And look at Andrew's comment. Sometimes when you leave energy signature waves, i.e., cause of high level of negativity or dark energy due to violent activities, you can attract other known forces to you, and that in itself can feel a demonic or negative energy. What do you think?
Exactly. And Jenny, we were just talking about that the other day.
Yes, we were.
It's amazing how these conversations keep coming back
Isn't
up.
it freaky the way I seen something that was commented today, and we only spoke about it yesterday,
Right.
or this morning, and I was like, and I screenshot it and I sent it on to you. I was like, oh my god, how freaky is this? That, like,
right,
coincidence is just freaky.
right,
Coincidence
right.
is freaky.
Synchronicity is happening a lot lately. So
Yep.
anyway, yeah, so what is your theory? I mean, obviously, I think we all kind of agree that as paranormal investigators, we know that an abusive home, even one person in that home, can create such a negative force that it brings in icky stuff. Now, do you think that was there really paranormal activity in there to begin with, or do people just go there and lose their fucking mind?
Well, like I said, I'm still not fully sure when it came to the DeFeos, but as far as when the Lutzes moved in, the year after they were murdered, I definitely think there was paranormal activity. Not exactly like obviously you see in the films,
Right.
Because and I should have taken pictures years ago. We actually did have one of the kids that grew up in that house. We had it was now almost 10 years ago. We had the Chicago Ghost Conference, and we had someone by the name of Christopher Quarantino that was going to be coming in. Now,
Wow.
Now, at first, I didn't recognize that name. I wasn't sure who that was at the time.
Oh my goodness.
Someone told me that he's
No.
actually one of the kids that grew up, and the way how he told the story, which it was a long story, but to be honest with you, it just really blew me away. And he did confirm that there was paranormal activity, but again, there was no, as far as what he said, there was nothing like flies occurring in the house or pigs looking into the windows or blood dripping down the walls. It was nothing like that at all. But he has said on many occasions most of that paranormal activity that did occur actually came from his stepfather, George Lutz, who had been dabbling in the occult.
Can I just say something very quickly here? I'm agreeing with Wayne and Joshua. Like I said, did something travel with them? Or like Wayne said, was there something lying dormant until this family came along to have woken something up in the house? That this people have lived in this house many years, many times. Nothing has happened, but yet this family comes in and then everything just explodes up. Did they carry something?
Well, considering like I said, since George, dabbled in the occult, that is actually another possibility. I mean, if there was something, he could have waken it up originally.
Yeah.
And as far from the records I was able to find, even before the house was built, there wasn't anything before that. I mean, there was that popular theory that supposedly it was built over a Native American burial ground, which they said, I think it was they said, I guess originally that part of Long Island was originally belonged to the Shinnecock Indians that lived in that area about back in the 1600s, if I'm correct. But we did find out it was not the Shinnecock Indians. It was actually a different I forgot the name of the tribe, but as they did some thorough searches around the ground areas of the houses, and even though it was Native American land at that time, they never did bury any members of their tribe. I mean, I'm not saying that there isn't like there are like hidden buried like unmarked grave areas, but they just haven't found any evidence that there actually were Indians buried in that area.
Okay.
Well, that's very interesting, because we all know when you go fucking around with Native American burial grounds, the white people came in and made a mess, and that is a whole nother show that we can get.
It is.
Yeah.
Coming to a screen near you.
So yeah, there's so many questions I have about the Lutz family. What do we think George Lutz's story was?
George Lutz, on many occasions, and it's not only, and before I tell you, it wasn't only just from what you hear in the book. I mean, part of it, yes, it was, but I think, in my opinion, that he, I guess, wanted to try to coax up a type of story that obviously would get a lot of attention from the general public. And he basically said that the house was haunted from the very start because, he claimed that he had no idea that, well, I mean, they were aware about the murders that occurred, the year prior before they were murdered. And as you hear in the story, after 28 days, they fled the house, claiming that they had been terrorized by the activity. But I think, okay, so maybe part of it he may have said was true, but I think the part that he never mentioned until Christopher Quarantino stepped in and finally spoke to the public about it was this activity was more or less brought on by him because, with his fascination with the occult, and if you dabble in that kind of stuff, there's a very good chance you're either going to wake something or you're going to be bringing something into that house that's just going to, cause sheer terror for not only yourself but for the entire family.
Right. Well, now here's where the controversy that, because some people may say that Jess and I, are in the occult.
Mm-hmm.
I think it all depends on, number one, you should never dabble in anything.
Absolutely.
Period. You just don't. When it comes to things of that nature, you don't dabble. So now, I will agree, if he's dabbling and there's a dark and a gray and a white, to everything. And if he's dabbling and already in a house where there's probably already icky stuff, I think that maybe he just helped wake up what was already there.
Yes.
In my opinion. Now, did he help invite more in? Probably so.
I think he probably took what he did before to the new house.
Well, there again, was it so they made it seem like that they didn't know that this house happened in this house, but they did know it when they bought the house that these horrific murders happened there. Mm-hmm. And by the way, everybody, happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day.
A great way to end Mother's Day and talk about
like talking about a murder house.
Yeah, the son who killed his family, bring on the guts and gore. Anyway, so he did know. So possibly could it be that he wanted to gain fame and fortune?
Yes. Not only just the fame and fortune, but I think just really even without that, he just wanted all the attention because that's what eventually made it, the book and eventually the movie a few years later. But the sad part was for a lot of the future owners that later moved into that house, that's when you had a lot of the curious onlookers. You had some, there wasn't as many. You had some of the ghost hunters and, other just big fans of the film. And, how could you live your life at that point? If you're living in a house that everyone else said they didn't experience anything, yet you still have these people that show up right at your house, right as you're getting your newspaper the next morning.
Yeah. Right. I just want to say one thing very quickly. Andrew, who has never known anything about this house before, there's a movie on it. I will send you the link of the movie of the Amityville House because Andrew knows nothing about this movie, about this house. Andrew's from the UK.
Welcome to the show, Andrew.
Hi, Andrew and Cole. I honestly don't know anything about this place, but I will send you the link of the movie to watch it, and then you will, get the insight.
Jess Beauregard, if you're in the comments, or Rosie too, Nick's Amityville series is on our YouTube page. So, he has got loads and loads of information, and I apologize for the feral cats.
You can hear the babies. You can hear you're rescuing babies. That's a good thing. That's good.
There's a series of movies, and Nick's got a series that he's done, and it looks like somebody in the background is now running my F-bomb counter.
Really? Where are they? Oh no, who's running it? Only two so far? You're doing good, Rosie.
It looks like my kids have figured out how to run that part of the StreamYard over there.
Jess is doing it. You're doing great.
So I know Rosie just pointed this out, saying there's a series of movies. I can give you guys obviously some examples. Obviously.
You're going to show us, Nick.
Yeah, I got basically like almost all of them, the official movies, because I'm sure you guys know over the last couple years, unfortunately, there's been a lot of low budget rip-off movies that have nothing to do with Amityville. They're just using it for the title. These are obviously some of the official Amityville movies.
Wow,
and
you have the whole set.
I actually put them together in chronological order. So that's why you see Amityville 2 first, because it takes place before the original. Then you got the original.
Why do they do that? Why do they do it? It's like Star Wars. They have 5, 6, 7, and then 1, 2, and 3. And I'm like, I am too old.
I know. It's like, what the fuck?
Do this.
Yeah. Well, when they made Amityville 2, George Lutz actually originally, because he supposedly held the rights to Amityville, that he wanted to have the second movie be a sequel that would take a few years after the first one came out. But that was based on the I can't remember which book it was, but instead the director as well as producers decided to go for the book Murder in Amityville, which that kind of more or less focused on the DeFeos.
Right.
So instead, they just decided to. So in other words, they essentially made it a prequel, but they made a lot of changes, to the real life family. Like a couple changes, for example, was instead of having 5 kids, they had 4 in it.
Oh wow!
Yeah, they one kid is omitted from the film. The last name is changed. Instead of the DeFeos, they're called the Montellis. And then finally, the oldest guy, which again, except for all the names are different except for one of the kids whose name is Mark, who's based on the real life kid on Mark DeFeo. But the killer, if you will, his name's Sonny Montelli, and he's actually clean shaven. He looks real handsome guy compared to Robert DeFeo Jr., who pretty much looked like Charles Manson and had a criminal record.
Well, and also, when you talk about looks of him, he also looked a whole lot like George Lutz.
Oh, yeah, that's the other thing. I said that.
That's really weird. That it's like the house draws a look in. Now, is there anyone living there now?
So the house it's been switching owners over the last couple of years. It just seems like even though they've modified it, they've remodeled it to try to steer away from all the attention to make it look like, just like any other house in that area of Amityville. I think unfortunately still got a lot of the curiosity seekers. So I think the longest I've heard of anyone who's lived in that house was probably about at least about 10 years. I might be wrong on that, but it's somewhere around there. But last time I did hear it was for sale, but there might be a possibility it might already be owned by somebody else.
Well, there you go, everybody. Go look on Zillow and see if you can get the Amityville house. I forget the name of the street. I'm sure you know it, Nick. The name of the street that house is on up there.
112 Ocean Avenue.
Ocean Avenue, and I knew it was something simple like that. It was on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah.
So, y'all go put it in your Zillow if you're looking for a house. That would really be a good one to have.
Did they buy it to live in, or did they buy it to make money from?
I think they actually, like the owners of today, I think they bought it to actually live in. Although I did hear of the last owners that did live there a couple of years ago, they at one point actually did allow several people to come into the house.
Okay.
Because I think they were doing like a little, I don't know if it was a documentary or something that they were probably putting on the local news in that area. And they were allowed to go into the house, but they weren't allowed to go upstairs or to the basement.
Did they get anything from it?
I haven't heard about any paranormal activity, but I think they just wanted to make a story about Amityville because I think it might have been on probably the anniversary. I don't know if it was either of the murders or supposedly when the Lutzes were living there.
So it'd be interesting to go in there. The DeFeo is dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that if the new family moved in or the family that lived there before that had no paranormal experiences from it, that would lead me personally into the loose family that would say there was something going on with the son and his prior activities before they moved into the home. So, and I know many teams that have moved into that, not moved into it, but have investigated that home, and was nothing from it. It's like a
Yeah.
house in the UK, nothing.
Yeah, I mean, there were, during the house's entire history, I mean, believe it or not, there's only ever been really 3 investigations in that house because you had, of course, obviously Ed and Lorraine Warren, as well as the news team that was there that investigated in early mid 1976, and I mean that was where they got the image of the little boy, which supposedly possibly may have been one of the DeFeo boys that lived
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
Then you had the second one. That was when that was a year later. Hans Holzer investigated the house, which surprisingly I wasn't able to really find a lot of details about the investigation that they had. Although Hans did bring a psychic with and claimed that there was a Native American chief, which kind of goes back to the Indian burial grounds I was mentioning. But again, it didn't really. There was no confirmation that this chief that was there actually occupied that area. And finally, the third investigation was when the Cromartys moved in not long after the Lutzes moved out, which they lived in for. I think now I think about it, I think they were the ones that stayed the longest. They stayed throughout the late 70s up to the late 80s, and they said they reported no activity whatsoever, but they did bring in a psychic with who they never mentioned who it was. But the psychic did say that although she didn't really detect any type of like actual paranormal activity, she did say that someone had dabbled into the occults. So that was something that was quite amazing because I'm thinking it was like that for me. It was like for me, it was like I think I already know where this is going because if she's saying that, it goes back to wonder who could have started that.
Right.
Yes.
Yep. I have to agree with Wayne here, who says, how can you live in a house knowing what happened there? I mean, especially, and it kind of goes to the frame of mind that what the fuck was George Lutz thinking?
Yeah.
What were you thinking? And if he did get the shit scared out of him, he deserved it. He deserved it. Because I mean that's just ew.
I mean when you think about it too, it's not like some of the other places where people have moved into houses and if there was a murder, usually we're all familiar with these were murders that occurred, 50 to 100 or more years ago. It's not like one of this. This was literally like they moved in literally just 13 months after the family was murdered. So it's like the blood stains in that house was still very, very fresh.
Of course, yeah.
Well, Andrew is asking if you would do the Roanoke House. Have you ever done anything with the Roanoke House?
I haven't done anything with the Roanoke House, but see, that's actually more of a newer one that I've been learning. So I'm still kind of understanding that one. But as with a lot of locations, I definitely would take an interest in it.
Right, and yeah, Josh, I really, probably just about every home, something has happened. Hey, Tom, but like Nick said, I mean, this was a brutal murder, and these people they bought it a year later. I mean, that's really just asking for trouble. Any way you look at it, take away paranormal activity, take away the occult, just the public, that's gonna bother you. Your neighbors are gonna look at you weird because they're thinking, what the fuck are you doing buying that house? Do you know what happened there?
Yeah.
So yeah, the whole George Lutz, now where's he at these days? Is he still around?
No, he's not. He died in 2006 at the age of I think it was at the age of 54.
Oh
So
wow.
he died well over a decade ago.
Right, right. So, and
And in the
what
family?
became of them after they left Amityville?
Well, supposedly, and yes, part of it was said in the book, but I think this was also reality. They claimed that the phenomenon followed them to wherever they went, because in the final part of this book, they originally said that they had, I think it was like a, again, like the film but differently, they said they had like a greenish black slime that occurred in the hallway at one point, and then all of a sudden it just stopped at that point. But based on Christopher Quarantino's, information, when we had him now almost 10 years ago, he said the activity it intensified. In other words, he didn't really give a lot of description of what was going on, but it really got kind of cold and created a lot of tension for especially him and George. I mean, you kind of have to feel sorry for Chris, because
Right.
he ended up not only did he not have a good relationship with his stepfather, but he ended up moving out of his family's house at only 16 years old. So, and
Mm.
he really, never really had
Yeah.
any more, he never really
Well,
had contact with him anymore after that.
well, right. I would imagine that, as we kind of touched on before, when people, when their motives behind things are to become rich and famous for all the wrong reasons,
Mm-hmm.
I think that right there just opens up the gates of hell. If there is such a thing as selling your soul to the devil, when and I'm not saying that everybody out there that wants to be a star, but I think there are some people that want it for the wrong reasons. And that want it for the wrong reasons, or someone that buys a home like this thinking, oh, and I don't know, I may be wrong, but I have a feeling that this man went into this house kind of already concocting his story,
Yeah.
kind
Hmm.
of already thinking up, you know, what's going to be some good stuff, you know. Now, do we know, Nick? I know you dug really deep into it. What was his financial situation, before he was haunted?
So from what I've heard, I surprisingly I couldn't find a lot about the financial issues, but it did sound like they didn't really they supposedly put a lot of money into this house, despite the fact that the
Yeah.
prices was lower than usual because of what happened 13 months prior. Um, See, I wish there was. I mean, I'm really surprised I couldn't find any more about the financial stuff, but I don't. I think it was relatively. It sounded standard, but I think he probably wanted more, because
Right,
this
right,
was probably a kind of situation where you have an individual like George Lutz, as well as maybe even maybe not the entire family, but you may have an entire family who their kids may not be doing well in school, they're not making a lot of money to support themselves or their kids,
right,
and
Hmm.
George, in my opinion, just like you said, Terry, that he probably started concocting this plan of trying to make more money, and whether he said something just between the family members or not, I don't think we're ever really going to know, unless
Yeah.
one of
right,
the other Lutz kids step forward. But
Yeah.
if he ever did make that, I mean, had the if he intended for this to happen, and if he was trying to promise his family, like, we're going to make more money, and especially for the kids who were not even 10, who were all under the age of 10 at that time, I mean, sending that kind of message to them, I mean, that is a powerful message.
right.
So I honestly think I think it was, so yeah, I think he did have a standard amount of money, but I think he just wanted more,
Oh
Right,
just
yeah,
to
for sure.
put his name out there.
For
right.
sure.
Wanted to, cashing in on, the death of someone is just about, well, I mean, that's just about, if there's a such thing as demons, in my opinion, that's about as demonic as it gets,
Oh yeah, definitely.
when you're trying to make money on the death of someone. And it, that's all just sickening.
Oh
And-
yeah, definitely.
And it is really sad that those kids, you know, it's always sad when adults bring kids into fucked up shit.
Mhm.
And, you know, that's about as dysfunctional as it right there.
Totally. I'm
I
just
mean,
gonna,
besides the DeFeo fan, you know, kid that slaughtered his whole family, then you got the next family, you know, coming in. And like I said, I have to think that, you know, he had to be thinking, I'm going to make money on this and move my
exactly.
kids in here. And even if none of it happened, the stories that were told and that the fact that these kids had to live with this their whole lives, you know, that's just trauma that you don't overcome.
Yeah, and if you look at it now, especially because it's far from what I've seen, all three of the kids are still alive as of 2022. Like I said, Chris is really the only one who's spoken out about this. His brother, Daniel Lutz, did speak out briefly. That was when he appeared in the documentary Amityville back in 2013, which, from what I've heard, someone once told me, because I added, Daniel, on the other hand, supposedly agreed with his stepfather's story. Now, I haven't seen the documentary yet, so I don't know the full story. But from what I've heard from someone was that both he and Chris, they don't really talk to each other anymore. But they do, however, made one agreement that their stepfather definitely was dabbling in the occult. But as for their sister, Missy, her nickname, she has not been heard from since. I mean, she has completely vanished from the public eye. So
Okay,
I mean,
I just want to ask a question here. Someone was asking about the house, about Ed and Lorraine Warren were saying the house was evil when they went into it. This was after the murders. I'm thinking, was it evil before the people went into it, the family?
actually, they went to the house. Oh, I'm sorry, Jenny.
Oh, no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Actually, they investigated after the Lutz's left. There's that.
Yeah, so after they had gone in, sorry for interrupting you, but after they had gone in, after the Lutz family had left, then they found the home evil.
Yeah, because they did a thorough investigation of the entire house, which again, that was aside from the two other, you know, smaller investigations, this was basically the only real public investigation that they ever did of the entire house. And in my opinion, for what they were experiencing, it is possible that, because Lorraine claimed at one point that she saw, I think it was in the basement or somewhere on the upper floors, that she saw like a row of bodies, like all wrapped up in sheets. What I was assuming was she was probably either she was seeing a reenactment, or perhaps it may have actually been the spirits of the DeFeo family, that, you know, it could have been a replay from when they were murdered. So it could have. So you may have had that, but I think you may have also had whatever it was that George Lutz had conjured up. So it was really the only time where you had kind of, if you want to call it, two different groups were basically witnessed by Lorraine through her ability.
Psychic, ability. So it was because of what the Luce family brought into the home, or what was there beforehand that the Luce had woken up, if I can say that.
Right.
And then just brought what they had from before to the home. Because there was many families who lived in that home beforehand and nothing had happened at all. And all of a sudden, everything is happening because the Luce family moved in. They took something with them to create something in the home. Because if multiple families lived there before, the Luce family moved in, things began to happen.
Right.
So
if you kind of look at
just,
it too,
you know, hard to believe it sometimes.
Right, because, you know, what's to say, you know, DeFeo wasn't just, you know, a monster who killed his family. You know,
Exactly.
Oh.
And he's using this as an excuse to say, I am mentally, something is wrong with me, and the demons made me do it, and I just killed my family because of XYZ. They told me to do it,
Right, and then
and
you
use
got
it as an excuse.
right,
That's
then you
my
got George Lutz comes in after, to say, oh, yeah, obviously it's haunted, or whatever he was conjuring in his head to make money. I feel like it was. Now, as a kid, I didn't know all that, but as I've gotten older and listening to Nick talk about it on the YouTube, it was I kept getting money signs in my head that this was all for the Lutz family,
for
maybe
sure.
not the whole family, but for George Lutz, this was about money, fame, and money.
Yes, definitely. Because, I don't think he was really. I mean, again, there's numerous interviews of him prior to his death, and it seemed like during the interviews he didn't really ever seem to really show any type of concern about if this would backfire, or like not knowing the possible consequences if the
Really?
truth was eventually revealed. I
Right.
mean, Chris one time at one point, I mean, he really wanted to speak about what really happened, even when George was still alive at that time, but he just became so frustrated, with what George was saying. And Chris then, like, literally said, and this was the only time he ever said this. I think at any of the Paracons was like, I think he yelled out at one point saying, "Where's the justice?" or something, because he was just so angry about this. And then
I
a few days later, he gets he gets a phone call from a relative, and he later found out that George passed away, and that I mean, I don't think he really felt any like remorse for what he said. I mean, I don't think he felt bad. I think to him it was, as crazy as it sounds, kind of a blessing in disguise, because it's like now that he's finally gone, now he could tell what really happened, because he's not going to have George or any of his lawyers try to intimidate
Anybody
him or
trying to
sue him
shut
for
him
what
up.
he was saying. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I want to go back to Rosie. Yeah, the book does give. I mean, it's been a long time ago that I read it, but it does give a pretty vivid explanation of what DeFeo did.
Oh yeah, it was, and it's brutal too for what he did to his parents and his siblings.
Brutal. Yeah, I mean, and it tells in what order he killed them, or what order. Well, I guess he confessed to all of it, after a while. So yeah, if you have not read the book, definitely read the book before you see the movie if you've not seen the movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I think a lot of people have seen the movies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like I said, I was a kid and read the book first. When did the movie first come out, Nick?
That was back in 1979. The book came out in 2 years prior, 1977.
Right. So yeah, I had probably already read the book 2 or 3 times. It was like my bedtime story. I
didn't.
And it would scare me to death, and I would sleep with my head under the cover.
My gosh.
I don't know why I was just so fascinated. I guess I've just had a sick, twisted mind, my whole life, but being into mass murders and paranormal investigating and ghosts and all that good stuff.
It's what we're used to.
Yes.
That's
now, I will say this, because among the collection I have of the official movies, I don't know, I'm sure you guys know this already. Now, the most recent one that they made, and this one came out about 4 years ago now, it was called the Amityville, sorry with the green screen, the Amityville Murders. And this one is very much kind of like it's like a remake to Amityville 2.
Is it worth watching? Is it worth watching?
I haven't seen it. I got this just literally a few days ago. I've seen the trailer for it though, and this actually really lives up to its name compared to Amityville 2, because in this version, which ironically enough, they're saying this is now considered the real prequel to the original Amityville, because now they got the names right, they got the amount of people right, they're calling them the DeFeos. Ironically enough, 2 of the actors from this movie, they don't reprise their roles, but they play among the family members. So it was really cool to check out. And but I'm looking forward to this as far
Well,
as
I'm
I'm
looking
correct.
forward to it now. I'm looking forward to watching it. When did it come out?
This one came out 3 years ago in 2018.
So I might get a Netflix.
Yeah, we might be able to find it somewhere out
We'll
there.
find it somewhere. We'll find it somewhere.
Rosie asked the room over your left shoulder.
Yeah, that's here. I can even turn it off briefly. So I mean, normally I usually whenever I do these shows, I'm usually in my room/office, but it needs to be clean, to be honest. I'm using my laptop, but so as a result, until I get it clean, I'm actually downstairs in the basement right now. So
yes,
part of it was showing up. Part of it was that's actually a poster of my brother. He's done shows in the past.
Nick, what is your next decoration for your basement that I always see? St. Patrick's Day, Valentine's Day. What is your next decoration for your basement?
Well, right now, of course, we're taking a break because I took all the Easter stuff down a week ago. But
no, what's the next holiday? What's the next holiday?
I was about to say my next one will be 4th of July, which I start putting that stuff up on June 25th.
Oh, awesome! So we're gonna have the whole star bangle banner and so on going on. Because
red, white, and blue.
Nick always decorates his basement with St. Patrick's with the green lights and flags, and then Valentine's with roses, and then Easter with rabbits and eggs and so on.
I go
for that stuff. So we are, coming to well, let's do some plugging here. First, I want to welcome Nick. Now he's running on our network, Skeleton Key, and on our YouTube. So we're so grateful we have him. Totally awesome. Y'all look forward to everything he does. He is a wealth of knowledge. I mean, I just can't even tell. Every time I catch one of this guy's shows, I'm just like, wow, to have a brain like that must be amazing. And Nick, tell us what else you got going on. You got any investigations coming up? What's going on in Nick's world?
Well, we are trying to put some investigations together for the Chicago area because I'm hoping so. I mean, I haven't made full confirmations yet, and but what I'm actually trying to put together, and this is the first time I'm ever actually mentioning about this because publicly I haven't really. You guys are actually among the first I'm telling you guys this. I'm trying to put together. I'm trying to put together basically a paranormal series of my own, which you guys remember the show Paranormal Witness, right? On the Sci-Fi Channel.
Yep.
It's going to be kind of like that, but the difference is, because I've noticed this with a lot of these paranormal shows, that you always look at you have people sat down, being interviewed. They use reenactments in it. I thought there's never really been a paranormal show where you have these people who witnessed or experienced stuff, but in our case, because us as paranormal investigators, we have a camera the entire time. So every time, when we go back and forth to the interview footage, everything in between is the real stuff. There's no reenactments whatsoever.
Yeah.
Right.
And my whole goal at this point is to try to first focus on a lot of the locations throughout the Chicago area, then eventually expand throughout the state of Illinois up to Wisconsin, Indiana, Michigan, Iowa, and maybe a corner part of Minnesota. But it all just depends on how we're going to plan this out. But but in addition to that too, I'm going to be making a few appearances at a couple Paracons. I actually have one coming up in about 2 weeks. I'm going to be at Parapsychon out in Mansfield, Ohio. So at Mansfield Reformatory, as you can imagine. So I also have an investigation coming up at Wildwood Sanitarium excuse me. I always have to call it sanitarium for that one in New York. So, I got a couple, great things. And then, of course, I told you earlier, I got 2 new audiobook series coming in.
That sounds a lot. That sounds like you're like busy.
And Rosie just pointed this out. Yes. So what she's talking about is we have a particular location, which Rosie, by the way, I just passed that place just 2 nights ago. It's called Carl Schurz High School. It's a huge high school, and it's actually one of the one of the oldest, if not the oldest, operating high school we have here in the city. It's been in operation since 1910, and considering
Wow.
the over now 110 year, almost 115 years now, it's definitely haunted. I mean, if you guys ever come up to Chicago, we're gonna have to reserve an investigation because you guys definitely got to go to this school.
Well,
I
we're
don't know,
trying
make
to
that
get Jenny to come over.
I am
So
planning. Listen, I am. If I don't do it this year, I will 100% do it next year. I am making a trip to America next year
well,
to
we
my
need.
ladies.
Well, we got Rosie working on that one project, and if we could get in there, it would probably be. I would say we'd have to plan that for a year out, and
Right.
we need you to come to America for a month, and we'll go on an
I will be so up for it.
We'll go on an American haunted tour. We'll go up
The
and
ladies on tour.
right. We'll go up and see Nick. We'll go up in the Northeast and New Orleans and all the hot spots.
Let's go cracking alligator in
That's
New
right.
Orleans, and then
Yeah.
we'll go and just go to amazing locations. Meet Nick, meet Jeremy. Meet the
Right.
whole crew. Meet the whole crew. Meet Rosie.
And Jeremy's only 3.5 hours away from me, so we're not really that far apart.
Yeah. Oh, and Jess, I think that's Jess behind Skeleton Key there.
Yes, road trip.
Right. Girl road trip, and we'll go meet all the paranormal guys around.
We'll do international paranormal.
We're gonna have to get you guys at Crown Point Jail in Crown Point,
Oh,
Indiana, because that's that jail that Jeremy and I have investigated numerous times. Which that's only an hour. It's like the halfway point for us. It's only like an hour and a half away from me.
really?
Yeah, it's not that far, to be honest.
I would do anything. Like all of you guys that I know in America would love to come to Ireland to do this castle, do this castle, that
Yes.
castle. I want to do your jails. I want to do Crown Point Jail. I want to do Alcatraz. I want to do I want to do the Birdcage. There's many locations in America that I want to do. And you all say that you want to come to Ireland and do castles.
Yeah, I want to do the castles.
Every castle. I can get you into every castle you want to go to in Ireland. I just need to get into the jails in America. Alcatraz.
Trips both ways. We'll get Jenny over here, and then we'll have to go over there to Ireland.
Yes.
And that's gonna bring me up. Do you ever watch Zach Baggins?
I knew she would ask.
So, to be completely honest with you, is I used
Yes,
to
you
like
do.
when they first started the show back in 2008. I used to love Zach. I mean, he was, at my, because when they first started the show, that was when I was in high school at the time.
Right.
So at my age at that time, and considering that there wasn't as many paranormal groups and we didn't have as many paranormal investigators on Facebook at that time.
Right.
Zach and the rest of the crew was they were my role models. But, as time went on and when he started using the term demon a lot and, just the behavior that he had, it just kind of, he disappointed me. So I just don't really,
Yeah.
I just don't like him anymore.
Because I had to send Jenny a message, and for her time, it's probably the middle of the night. I'm sending her a message going, oh my God, because they had just been at Redwood Castle. They had just been at
the weekend in Redwood, and then 3 other different castles for that whole weekend.
Yeah, and then Hellfire Club.
Yep.
Yeah.
I remember that episode actually.
Yeah.
Yes, we were ACG Paranormal. Nick.
Yes, I got to ask you, how was Nat and Elliot?
I love them.
They're
my
awesome,
new
right?
besties. They're my new besties. I love them.
They are awesome. I love them too. And like I said, they live in Joliet, which is just again an hour south from me. So we're basically neighbors.
Oh, they were so amazing to work with. I was supposed to go to Dublin. Sorry, Terry. I was supposed to go to Dublin to meet them for a night, but I couldn't get up to Dublin. But they were rushing here and there and everywhere else to get things done before they flew away to Chicago the next day. But it was a pleasure to have met them, and I finally got to meet them, to people I speak to.
I told you were gonna love them. I said you're gonna love them, Jenny.
I love them. We had such fun. And then when we got down from the mountain,
And nobody got grabbed by the demon or the devil.
nobody did. But there was a lot of activity, but nobody got dragged by a demon. But on the way down the mountain, we had so much fun. I was moaning about the pain in my knees, my back, my legs, my ankles, the hill, the mountain, the climb. And we got down to the very bottom, and it was just like, we're arranging to meet up the next day in Dublin, which unfortunately did not happen. But it was like we did make a connection, and we're so meeting up again. It was so nice to meet up with someone.
I got the feeling that they're going to be back real soon.
They're going to be back. They're moving to Ireland eventually, but
yeah, I know. I remember hearing they were going to move to Ireland.
Yeah, it was a great weekend. It was a great day with them, and it was worth it. Coming from the whole weekend that we had in the castles and the weekend in Ireland, and then to go and to meet the ACG, Nat and Elliot in the Hellfire Club, it was just the icing on the cake. To meet with a team that I've spoken to from Chicago, to actually meet them in the Hellfire, it was a moment. It was a moment.
Awesome.
Yes, I walked up going from the frickin' hell, but it was worth it. It was worth it. It was a great day. It was great to meet up with them. Yeah, it was awesome.
Yeah, they're talking about the history.
Oh, Andrew.
Yeah.
I guess maybe because we live here in the United States, and it's the United States. But over there y'all have these amazing castles that have been around longer than the United States.
Oh yeah.
Andrew and Cole, come over to Ireland. I will get you into the best castles. Like, come over to Ireland.
Just say,
I mean, she's got Hellfire Club there.
Yeah.
We have the Hellfire, and the Hellfire Club is closing very soon because they're going to knock it down.
What? They are?
They're knocking it down.
Oh my God, I had no idea.
There was protest against it. There was not enough, and they are knocking the whole Hellfire down to build a...
No.
Yes.
Okay, we're gonna need to put a page together, just like with Safeway Rural Hills.
I'm telling you, please do it, because they're knocking it down, and they're going to build like a tourist.
Yeah, we're gonna need to fix that. We're gonna need to fix
that. It's already been passed. So So they are going to knock it down.
Oh no!
I mean, you cannot. And I was talking now, Nick. I was talking to Nat about this walking down from Hellfire Club. I'm like, we just went to an amazing location, and we're walking down from this, and they're going to knock this freaking amazing historic place down. They're going to knock it down, boulder everything, and just make it into a big glass building of tourist attraction, and have these cart trails going up to bring people up to it. Go figure.
Oh,
it's money.
Say that fame and fortune and money thing may
not. Yep, it goes right back to that, and that's just like,
I hope
it really disappoints. It really disappoints me because, like, if you look at the United States locations, I mean, we got a lot of old places too, but like you said, Terry, how like a country like Ireland that's got places even older than what we have, over here in the United States. I'm sure I'm not the first to say this, but it's sad how a lot more of our historic locations are usually torn out just to put a damn Walmart. It's just like nobody cares.
It's history doesn't mean anything anymore. History means nothing. Like
we got a building actually here that as far as I know, I'm the only one who's been trying to put something together to say we have a place that's called the Mignola Hotel. It was originally built back in the 1880s. It's located up in Fox Lake, which is again about 40 minutes from me. If you look at it, it's a beautiful hotel. It's by the lakeside of Fox Lake. And it's actually been closed now for almost 60 years. It actually closed in the early 60s, but the bar and restaurant was open up until about 2012. It's among one of the oldest, if not the oldest, wooden structure we have here in the state of Illinois. It's also, unfortunately, on the top 10 most endangered buildings to be torn down, and
No,
you
are you
can't go in it,
kidding?
unfortunately, because again,
That's
it
just
rot,
ridiculous.
it's fallen apart, it's rotted, and there just really hasn't been a lot of people willing to step in to save this place. So, in fact, Jeremy and
Really?
I talked about this a few weeks ago. We thought maybe we could try to put some type of, whether if it's a Paracon or some kind of event where we can make a donation, so we could send that money to the city of Fox
Yeah.
Lake
Yeah.
to save this. And this is something that we should be doing with not only Fox Lake, but many other historic and haunted locations as
Absolutely.
well.
All right, Hellfire Club.
Hellfire Club.
Big
Bill,
time, yeah.
ask if you have ever investigated Penhurst Asylum.
No, I haven't, but it's on my list. I don't know if I'm going to be able to check it out this year because I am going to Pennsylvania later this year. Well, I plan on going to Pennsylvania later this year, but for the Gettysburg Battlefield Bash, it's actually part of the reason why I really want to go is one of the other networks I'm a part of, BB3 TV. They're going to have like a spot. I think they have a vendor table. I think they said that they were going to give me access to be a part of it. So I don't know how far Gettysburg is from Penn State. So I mean, I never got to look, but if it's not terribly far, I'm going to try to make a visit.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, all right. Well, we're rolling past 12:30. I mean, we don't have nobody behind us, but I know it is early for Jenny over in Ireland, and it is
daylight.
late for us in the United States, and we have doctors to see in the morning and all that good stuff. So, Nick, thank you so much for joining us. And I do have one more question. Jeremy York will be joining us. Hold on, let me get my day here.
Sure.
Sunday. What would that be? 2 weeks from tonight, the 22nd of May.
Okay.
And if you would like to jump in with us that night, we're going to talk about all the projects that y'all work on together.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was a little bit concerned at first because that was the same weekend I was going to be in Ohio, but Sunday night is when I do plan on coming back home. So I will be home by then because again, Mansfield, Ohio is just a 6.5 hour drive for me. So I'll be home long afterwards. So yeah, I can come back.
Cool. Well, now if you're too tired from traveling in the weekend, we'll understand. But hey, if you want to jump on and join us again, and I know you and Jeremy work on a lot of projects together, and everybody else is having him. And I thought he needs to come on my show. Damn it!
Oh yeah, I always recommend him a lot of times, so I would do the same thing for yours.
Yeah, well, he was. Jess and I wanted him before, and then he got hurt. So let him get better.
Yeah.
And so now that he's back out there in the world, we're actually gonna do like a weekend of Jeremy York. We're gonna talk to him.
That's awesome.
We're gonna talk to him on Friday, on our daytime show, and then we're gonna talk to you and him Sunday night about all the projects that y'all work on. So we're looking forward to that night. So everybody, thank y'all for joining in. If you have any more questions for Nick, send them. Put them in the comments, and he'll get to them. He's real good to follow up with everybody. So, thank y'all for viewing. Jenny, thank you for jumping in.
Always a pleasure, my love.
Stevie in the background running the comments there. Thank y'all for doing that over there. Everybody have a wonderful night, and we will see you next time.
Good night.